All right guys, in this video, I'm gonna show you why I always carry paracord and carabiners in my pack. I'm gonna show you how to get heavy quarters hanging in trees without throwing out your back. We're gonna start with the very simple, just using paracord, and then we're gonna add in some carabiners, and then finally we're gonna end up with the Cadillac, which uses these ultra lightweight pulleys that I've got from Petzl, so stick around. All right, so we're gonna start very, very basic, and we're just gonna use paracord for this setup. Let's say that I'm in the field by myself, I just got an elk down, and I just need a little bit of pressure just to hold a leg over or something like that so that I can get in there and make the cuts that I need to get this animal processed. Now, elk are just big animals, and so a little mechanical advantage helps a lot, especially when you're by yourself. All right, so we're gonna start with just a very, very simple 2-to-1 system. I'm gonna go ahead and start by just tying a bowline around this tree. This is gonna be our pull point. And then I've got a little aspen tree over here that I'm gonna use as a stand-in for an elk leg. Now, to attach to this leg here, I've just got a little loop that I've made out of paracord. We'll just throw that around a hoof, and we'll pass this through that loop. And so what I've got here is a theoretical, and I'll explain more what I'm talking about here in just a minute, but a theoretical 2-to-1. So if I apply 50 pounds to this, that's multiplied over here, and we're actually applying 100 pounds of pressure to this tree right here. Now, if all you need to do is just lift a leg and hold it while you're doing some skinning or something like that, this may be all you need. But if you need a 3-to-1, or if you need a little bit more pressure applied to this tree, it's very simple to convert this to one. We got to go to the other end of this thing, and I'll show you how. So to make this into a 3-to-1, we're basically going to make this into a giant trucker's hitch, or what would be known as a Z-rig in a climbing application or an arborist application. So all we're gonna do is tie a loop here, and then we're gonna take our line and pass back through this loop. Now, this changes the direction of pull, and you can apply a lot of pressure to this tree with this rig right here. You can see how much I'm pulling that little aspen tree over. Now, if you need to tie this off, you can actually pinch this right here, pull it down, pinch it, and just put you a loop through there. And now it's secured, and you've got your tension on whatever it is you're pulling. You can go to skinning or doing whatever you've got to do. All right, so what we've created here is a very, very basic, very rudimentary, theoretically 3-to-1 pulling system. It's also known as a Z-rig. Now, the reason I stress theoretical is because these ratios, this 3-to-1, 5-to-1, whatever ratio you're talking about, that's assuming that there's no friction at these points right here. Now, of course, that is most definitely not the case, especially with this rig. This is actually a very inefficient rig because there's a lot of friction at this point and at this point. And so we're limited in how much pressure we can put on this tree right here that we're trying to pull because of that friction. Now, there's a couple of ways that we can get around that, and the easiest, lightest, most packable way that I know is just to add a couple of carabiners. All right, there we go. So now this slides so much easier just because of the reduction of friction at these pull points. Now we're getting closer to that theoretical 3-to-1. And so if you find yourself in a situation where you really need to put a lot of pressure on something, maybe you need to roll a big animal over or something like that, this is going to be much more efficient than simply the paracord, and all I had to do was add a couple of carabiners on there. All right, so I'm going to take this one step farther and just say, if you need more, all you got to do is snap another carabiner in there, change directions again, add another leg, and you've just made a 4-to-1 system. All right, so I've got a game bag here with a 50-pound sack of feed in there. Pretty good bit of weight. We're gonna go ahead and just say this is a front quarter off a bull elk. So I'm gonna show you how to get this thing hanging in a tree without throwing your back out. I'm gonna take my little loop that I made. We'll just go around the top of this bag here. And I'll go ahead and snap a carabiner on there. Run our line through that carabiner, back up through this one. And now we've basically made another simple Z-rig, which I can very easily pull this up. Now, you've got your entire system tied up here, and you might need to hang other quarters. And so I'm gonna go ahead and tie this off, and then I'll show you how you can reuse this to hang your other quarters. Now these are Argali bags. They've got this long piece of paracord on here. Just gonna take this and do a half hitch around this. All right, so we've got everything loose. We can go ahead and rig up our other quarters, get them up in the tree the exact same way, and you've got your quarters up off the ground. You got some airflow around them. They're gonna cool much faster. They're gonna dry and develop that rind, and you're gonna end up with better meat. Now, of course, if you're in bear country and you're worried about bears getting into your meat, you're gonna have to figure out a way to get this much higher up in a tree, and I might cover that in a future video if there's interest in it, how to deal with that type of stuff. It takes a little bit more rigging, but it's not very difficult to do. So a 3-to-1 system like this is going to be sufficient for most hunters to hang elk quarters up in the trees by themselves. But if you're a smaller person or you just need to lift more weight, you can rig a 4-to-1 system with carabiners like this. You got to rig it a little bit different. So let's take a look at how to do that. All right, so for a 4-to-1 system, if you want to be pulling down, you're gonna have to switch the places where you tie this thing. So instead of tying our main line to the branch up here, I'm gonna go ahead and just tie it to the bag. So I'll start by just tying a bowline, making a loop, and we'll just place that right over the top of this bag here. I'll take a carabiner, clip it right through the excess on that bowline, and then we'll put our paracord loop up at the top here on this tree. There we go. All right. So, take our line, go through our first carabiner, through this one, then back up through the second, and now we have a 4-to-1 system, theoretical, where we can easily get a very heavy piece of meat up in the tree. Now, you could just wrap that around your foot, step on it. And now you can put your half hitch around. Take everything apart. And you're ready for your second quarter. All right, so if you're just using carabiners like this to make Z rigs and 4-to-1 ratio rigs, there's still quite a bit of friction in these things. And so the higher that ratio gets, the less efficient you get because you're adding more friction points to the system, and you start to get into this area of diminishing returns. And so I would say if you're going with just straight carabiners and you're not using any kind of pulleys or anything like that, probably a 3-to-1, maybe a 4-to-1 is probably as far as you want to take it. You start getting into the higher ratios and you're using up a lot more rope and really not getting that much more benefit just because all the friction that's introduced through those carabiners. But I'm going to show you one more way that you can use some ultra lightweight pulleys to achieve this same type of thing with a much higher efficiency system. So Petzl makes these ultralight pulleys that weigh just 1.5 ounces a piece. And by adding just 1 or 2 or even up to 3 of these things to your pack, you can really maximize the efficiency of these pulley systems. $32 pounds. And so if you are a smaller person or you're needing to lift very heavy weights, adding a couple of these pulleys might just be the ticket. All right guys, I hope you enjoyed that video and learned something. Hunting season is in full swing, so we are probably out in the woods right now as you're watching this. I hope you guys have a lot of success this fall, and if you take something like this and are able to utilize it, throw some pictures up on Instagram or some other social media, tag me because I'd love to see how you guys are using this in the field. We'll see y'all next time.